Well, hello. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of the Beeman Show. Today we're going to be talking about this conflict in the Middle East. A lot of people are calling it World War III. We're going to be looking at some prophecy in the Bible about this upcoming conflict that's already kind of looks like it's starting to heat up pretty well. I think the mullahs in Iran just put out an edict of some type where they're calling for the death of President Trump and the death of Netanyahu. So, I mean, they're really trying to heat things up over there pretty good. And this prophecy was written down and recorded by Ezekiel right around the year 580 BC. Now we know that Ezekiel was born somewhere around the year 620 BC, and he was a prophet of Israel from somewhere around 570 to 590, so we estimate this prophecy was written right around 580 BC. Now the prophecy is written through the names of the grandchildren of Noah. Now this is somewhat confusing. So you have to know where the grandchildren of Noah went on the earth and what regions of the earth they settled in order to figure out what nations are going to gather together in an alliance to attack Israel, what nations are going to gather in an alliance to defend Israel, and how it all plays out. It's kind of wonder why did they write it in the names of the grandchildren of Noah. Well, at that time, 580 BC, most of these nations didn't exist at that time. But the Jewish people being very familiar with the genealogies of Noah and Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and everybody, they would know who these names of these people were and a general idea of where they went, so they would have some understanding of what it meant. So if you look right behind me over here, you can see that I put up a world map, and I've taken the time to go ahead and I've put little stickers on the map of the names of the grandchildren of Noah. And we'll go look at that much closer. We'll zoom in and we'll take a look at where those names are. And then you'll be able to see through the names of the grandchildren of Noah what countries they represent. And then I want to prepare you that there's 3 different thought processes that are floating out there in the world of theology. Who's right, who's wrong, I know this, I know that, whatever. People think 3 different thoughts about this prophecy that was given to Ezekiel in 580 BC. And one of the most prominent thoughts and the most key players in this was a guy by the name of James McGinley. And he was born in the 50s, and he just died here, I think, in April of 2024. And he did a lot of preaching. And what he says is that he believes that this battle, this World War III, is going to take place before the rapture of the church. This is what's his opinion. The majority opinion of most preachers, you ask people to do Bible study, most people will think or say or respond to you, when is this going to happen? They will say, this is the battle of Armageddon, this is the last battle, it's all over, or this and. But that clearly is not the case. It's not the case. The third position is that this is a pre-tribulational conflict. That it could be before the rapture, it could be after the rapture, but it's more than likely a pre-tribulational conflict because it's so vast. It's so many millions of people are going to die in this battle that it could bring about what the United Nations, and if you study anything about the United Nations, you'll see very quickly that they've been working for 50 years to get a one world government, a one world religion, a one world president, so that they say the only way that we're ever going to stop war, and that's our goal, to stop war, says the UN, is we get all the world together into one world government, and then there won't be the competition. Countries won't fight for each other for resources, and that'll end it. So that's kind of the third thought, that this is going to be a pre-tribulational event. It could be, like I said, pre-rapture or post-rapture, but a pre-tribulational conflict that some individual, a person or spirit or someone that we might call the Antichrist would use this event to say war is so terrible, we can never have another war again. It's now time to unite behind one world leader and bring in this tribulational period. It's more than likely that's what I think it is. And now there's some very strong evidence as to why this can't possibly be the Battle of Armageddon, because, and we don't have to look at a lot of verses, we don't have time to look at a lot of it. We're going to look at two verses. I think it's verse 10 and 11 to 39 about the bones. We got to see the bones. Once you see the bones, you will know that there's no way that this could be a end of the world Battle of Armageddon type event. So it's going to be bad, but it's not the Battle of Armageddon. So I'm going to zoom us in, and I have some clips, so we do some editing. I've made some other clips. We're going to zoom in, and we're going to take a look at this map that I got behind me. Now, there's a couple of things on this map that I want to give you a little bit of extra. There's a little bit of history with Great Britain. We're going to take a look at some stuff that goes on with Great Britain. And the other thing that I want to talk about right now, real briefly, is China. So China is listed on this map. A portion of China is listed as one of the elements that is going to fight in this World War III battle. One of the things that's going on with China, I don't know, China is really not doing good right now. They're suffering the effects of this one-child policy that they had for years. Right now, they have a tremendous labor shortage in China. And their labor costs are up, 12 to 14% in the last 7 to 8 years. Their labor costs are skyrocketing because their labor force is getting older, and, I believe the ratio is something like 2.3 men for every single woman in China, because, back during the one-child policy, the man was supposed to be the important part of the family, and nobody wanted girls. They aborted their girls, or they, killed them, or whatever they did. If they had a girl, they got rid of it, So they wanted to have a son. So that made an imbalance in China that's brought them to a place today where they have real serious problems with labor shortage. And as a result, they're having to pay laborers, elderly laborers, more money, and they don't work quite as well. If you're 60 years old, you can't do what you did when you were 20, so their labor costs are skyrocketing, up like 14%. And China also has a memorization-based educational system. So the people that are coming out of the education system in China, they don't really have that can-do creative spirit that other countries are putting into their children. So they're mostly structured on memorization for basic labor tasks. And right now, India and Mexico is 1/3 or 30% cheaper on labor cost than it is in China. So if you recall, Donald Trump was pushing a big, big, big push in India for a manufacturing and trade agreement. He was also doing and made a big push in Saudi Arabia, and they've made big deals on updating Saudi Arabia's infrastructure and modernizing and bringing Saudi Arabia into a high-tech environment so Saudi Arabia can help produce things like microchips and other manufacturing stuff. So this is why you've seen Donald Trump pushing so hard on India and Saudi Arabia in order to get these trade deals, because they are the future. Because within 10 years, China is pretty much out of the game. They won't be able to manufacture like they're doing. And I think it was just yesterday or the day before, China capitulated, gave up, and signed a trade agreement that with President Trump so they can get back to doing trade. And China's in some real trouble. So China has been flying a lot of aircraft into Iran. So China is a threat. China is a big problem in this conflict. But are they going to play a role with 5 million soldiers rushing through Iran to attack Israel? I'm not sure that they can do it because they have such labor and such economic problems going over there. So let's take a look at Ezekiel chapter 38, and then let's look at the names of the grandchildren of Noah, and then let's take a look and dive in a close view of the map, and I'll explain some of the things on that map so you understand.
And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against them, saying, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. And I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaw, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. 38 verse 13, Sheba and Dedan, and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, Art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to take a great spoil?
So let's go over this Ezekiel chapter 38 by the names of the grandchildren. And I'll show you the names of the grandchildren and what countries they represent. Well, the first is Gog, which is right here, which is Russia, Moscow, Russia. It's also called the land of Magog, which is Kazakhstan, Mongolia, and some parts of China is Magog. It's kind of towards the east of Moscow, this general area. A little different culture developed in that area. And
Gog and Magog, or Gog, is called the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. So Meshach is Turkey and Tubal is Syria. We know that Turkey and Syria both have had a long military relationship with Russia. The next people are listed as Persia. Persia being, I think Iran changed the name of their country from Persia to Iran. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but 1978, I think they changed it. But in this reference, Persia does not only represent Iran, it also represents Iraq, old parts of the Assyrian Empire, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. It's this entire region right here. It's not only Iran, it's parts of Syria, Iraq, Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. They're all considered Persia in this text. The next one is down here. It's named by its rightful name, Ethiopia, and Libya, right up here just west of Egypt, Libya. So this is the group of people there's going to, from Europe, that's going to be involved. It's called, the name of the grandson is called Gomer, and that's from the Germanic tribes of Germany, France, Poland, Belgium, and these groups of people here is Gomer. And Togarmah. Togarmah is the Caucasus Mountains, what you would call Armenia, where everything travels down through this area, through the Caucasus Mountains of Armenia. Togarmah is that region just above Iran and Armenia, and that's the group. So Russia, being Gog, is going to put together a coalition of military forces that includes Germany, Poland, and a lot of Europe, Turkey, Syria, Armenia, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, China, Persia, which is Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Ethiopia, and Libya. There are the groups of people that are going to be against Israel. Now, on the opposing side, it's going to be lined up different. It's going to be lined up Israel, Yemen, or Sheba. Sheba is Yemen. Saudi Arabia is Dedan. And then the merchants of Tarshish, Great Britain is Tarshish. That includes Australia, Canada, and the United States. So it's going to be Russia, Germany, Turkey, Syria, Armenia, Kazakhstan, China, Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Ethiopia, and Libya against Israel, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Australia, Great Britain, Canada, and the United States. Now you notice that I have one little arrow pointing to this tiny little speck right here on Spain. All right, so I kind of focused this in on Spain. And the reason I'm doing this is because right here on the southern western tip of Spain, off the coast, below Portugal, is a city. The city is called Tarshish, okay? That city names have been changed in the last 2,000 years. But there's a story in the Bible where Jesus goes for a boat ride, finds a guy possessed by some type of evil spirit living in a graveyard, a whole bunch of pigs around, and the evil spirits go into the pigs and they all drown in the sea. And
That story is told as if it happened somewhere on the Sea of Galilee, but that is not correct. It's kind of a false teaching that you hear in church today that did not happen on the Sea of Galilee. Jesus sailed from all the way here in Israel, and he sailed all the way out here to Spain. And it was when he came into Spain, right on this end tip right here where you see this arrow pointing, that's where he went ashore. And that's where the pigs were drowned in the sea. It wasn't over there in the Sea of Galilee in Israel. It happened on the southern tip of Spain. And there's another whole lesson about why they're called the merchants of Tarshish. And it's prudent to understand that Tarshish, being Great Britain, which we can see right here, Tarshish originates in Spain, and they travel up here, and there's another whole thing about mining copper over in Lake Superior and it fueling the Bronze Age in Europe, but that's another whole thing. But I wanted you to see that this is actually a city called Tarshish right here. And this is where Jesus went, and this is where the pigs drowned in the sea. And there's some relationship with this name and this name matching. And when it says it's young lions, the young lions of Tarshish, are called the merchants of Tarshish, that started the sailing ships of Tarshish, started here in Spain in the Mediterranean. And then they traveled along the coast and they populated Great Britain. And that's why it's called the merchants of Tarshish, and why it's also called the young lions. And I'll show you a picture of Great Britain's coat of arms. I think it started in 1200, 1300 AD, where they adopted the lion as part of its coat of arms. And I think they still have it today, but I think they added a horse or something. I'll show a picture of it to you. So on the southern tip of Spain, I want you to see this image. It's a monolithic standing stone structure right at the coast on Spain where Tarshish was. And then you will take a look at Stonehenge is up in Great Britain. There's Stonehenges there. And now I want you to see this image of underwater photographs from Lake Michigan, where some type of standing stone monolithic structure, circle standing stone, similar to what's in Great Britain and similar to what's in southern Spain, that they've now been found in Lake Michigan under the water. So the portion of Lake Michigan, it's about 40 feet deep. So this copper that they were taking out of Lake Superior, the Great Lakes, a lot of the glaciers hadn't fully melted as much as they have today. They're all gone. And the water levels are much higher. So around 2500 BC, when Tarshish was making this route and bringing this copper for the Bronze Age. Bronze Age started around 2800, 3000 BC, and it ran to around 1200 BC, and then they figured out how to make iron tools, so they kind of got rid of the bronze. But back 2500 BC, the water levels in Lake Michigan and Lake Superior were much, much, much lower. They're about 80 to 90 feet lower than what they are now. And this whole region underneath Lake Michigan that is presently under about 40 feet of water, at that time when they were carrying that vast amounts of copper out of the Great Lakes down the St. Lawrence Seaway into Great Britain and down to the tip of Spain, water levels were much lower, and that whole region was above water. That section of the Lake Michigan was above water, so there was a network where they brought the copper out of Lake Superior and brought it down. That's another whole thing, but I just wanted you to see these pictures of this underwater monolithic type structure found in Lake Michigan. Now I did say earlier that this couldn't possibly be the Battle of Armageddon for several reasons, but the biggest reason is right in chapter 39. It's about the bones. So let me go ahead and read to you this about the bones, and then I'll explain that.
And it shall come to pass in that day that I will give unto Gog a place there of graves in Israel, the valley of the passengers on the east side of the sea. And it shall stop the noses of the passengers, and there shall they bury Gog, and all his multitude, and they shall call it the valley of Hamon-Gog. And 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying them, that they may cleanse the land.
So you have a situation where there's so many people have died and they're just corpses are laying everywhere on the ground that they smell so bad that people can't even hardly stand to travel through that area. So Israel goes out and spends 7 months burying the dead. There's many people going out there burying the dead, and it goes on for 7 months every day, except for the Sabbath, of course. And they're burying all these people. And then it goes on that the nation of Israel actually hires people to travel continually back and forth through the area, and they make a law that says if you find a human bone while traveling up the King's Highway to the east of the Dead Sea, that you have to make some type of marker, pile up a little pile of stones or something, so that these people coming through can see your marker, and they'll take those bones to the field of Hamon-Gog and they'll bury them. And it goes continually. So in the case of these bones, if we're in Revelations chapter 20 and it's the Battle of Armageddon, if this is supposed to be the battle, why we need to bury bones? Because the very next thing that happens after the Battle of Armageddon is the White Throne Judgment, and all those dead people and their bones are going to end up being resurrected and go into the White Throne Judgment, be tossed into the lake of fire, and we get a new heaven and a new earth. It doesn't make any, and it's for months. Not only is it takes months to bury all these people, but there's people whose job it is to travel continuously through the area burying these bones. So that's just the bones. That has anything to do with all the weapons that they found and taking off the butt stocks that are made from wood and everything else, and they don't even have to cut down trees so many wooden things to burn. They don't even have to cut down trees, it tells us. Okay, they're going to pound all that metal, melt down all that metal, and make hoes and pitchforks and plows and stuff. So there's no way that can be the Battle of Armageddon. It may be at the second advent. This could occur at the second advent, but it's definitely not after the millennial reign of Jesus Christ. It's definitely not the Battle of Armageddon. So this situation in the Middle East has been going on for quite some time. It's been building and building and building. And it's not going to end anytime soon, especially with Israel, who keeps pushing the envelope and starting more conflicts. It's just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. A lot of the world in the region of the Middle East, Northern Africa, in Southern Europe, they're getting sick of Israel, causing a lot of problems. A lot of countries are going against Israel because they're just sick of the problems that they're causing. They cause a lot of issues. And they're going to continue to do so. So eventually, at one point, a scenario is going to play out where a bunch of these countries, which is going to start with Magog, Gog, Russia, and Germany, and Turkey, and Syria, and Iraq, and Iran, and you've already seen Pakistan. Pakistan is saying they're going to give nukes to Iran, and Afghanistan. A lot of these countries are just going to say, we've had enough. Well, if we just get rid of Israel, we'll get rid of our problems. And that's building to a head that's going to end up in this massive World War III. All the countries, you've seen the map. You've seen the map right behind you. We went through each country. It's already lined up exactly the way it says in Ezekiel chapter 38 by the names of the children of Noah. It's all lined up. Israel keeps instigating. They're going to cause more and more and more and more problems. And I would even go as far as to say, if not sooner, at least by October of this year, Israel is going to start another bombing campaign or some type of conflict somewhere. They're going to start again. Because you got 6 months and Netanyahu is going to be out on his heels, and he's going to need another conflict to stay in power. So he's going to start something somewhere by probably around October. It is just never going to end. It's just going to keep going and going, and eventually, all these Russia and China and all these countries are going to go, we've just had enough of Israel, and we're going to take them out. And it's going to set up this World War III scenario that we're looking at. Well, thank you very much for watching this episode. Remember the lantern, the episode about John Pulling Jr., You Are the Patriots. This program is only successful because of you, and I appreciate all of your patronage here watching these programs. And I ask that you share and subscribe to the program. Remember that John Pulling Jr. climbed that lantern with that lantern all the way to the top of the tower of the Old North Church late at night to let Paul Revere know the British were coming. And he took quite a risk. And he was an American patriot. And you should have a lantern, and you should hold up your lantern. And you can do that by sharing this broadcast with maybe friends of yours or people you might know in your church community. And let people know about it. Talk about it. Tell other people about the program. That will help make it a success. You are the Patriots. And I appreciate you. God bless.